Good morning to everyone, and welcome to our listeners on our first energy regulatory podcast hosted by the Energy Regulators Regional Association. Today, Mr. Luca Lo Schiavo, ERRA Senior Regulatory Specialist with over 28 years of experience at the Italian regulator, interviews Mr. Ivan Faucheux, Commissioner of the French Energy Regulatory Commission. Our two senior guests will explore a recent report published by the French Energy Regulatory Commission on small modular reactors and advanced modular reactors in order to understand whether these technologies, which are still under development, can truly represent a solution for the European energy transition, or whether the numerous uncertainties highlighted by the French regulators' report might compromise their concrete prospects. Mr. Faucheux, Mr. Lo Schiavo, welcome to the podcast, and we wish you a fruitful discussion.
Thank you, Goga. My name is Luca Lo Schiavo. Good morning to everybody. Hi, Ivan. The first question is about the general context of nuclear in France. France is the country in the world with the largest nuclear generation park. Can you briefly sketch the context in terms of mix of generation with growing renewables and this park that is aging and the need for renewal investment as a general idea for our listeners?
Okay. Hi, Luca. Hi, everybody. So my name is Ivan Faucheux, and I'm commissioner at CRE, French energy regulator. In France, nuclear production is about 362 terawatt per hour. So it's roughly 68% of the nuclear, of the electricity production in France. And as Luca underpinned, this is the largest park, the largest homogeneous park in the world. The choice in France has been made to have one design, roughly one design. As a matter of fact, we have 4 steps of design, but roughly this is one design and one person in charge of the exploitation of the nuclear power plants of the nuclear fleet. And this leads to a very special context. First context is the park has been, or all the power plants have been built in the same period. So in terms of investment needs, there is waves of investment. And as the nuclear fleet is reaching its lifespan, just say 40, 50, 60, a certain number of years. This is a number of years that is already not known, but is dependent on the safety rules, on the safety state of the park. And when the park is reaching its lifespan, then there is a tremendous need for investment. And what I want to underline yet is that we are currently at a point where the old park has to be extended, and there is a need for new investment in nuclear for the years 2040, for example. And so we have currently a question mark about how to finance all this investment. So it leads to two questions. First question is, shall we stay in the same model? Shall we have big nuclear power plants with one sole person in charge of this power plant fleet, or shall we go to smaller and more diversified picture of the nuclear fleet in France? And the other question mark is, what is the crucial resource for nuclear? The crucial resource for nuclear is currently the fuel, the location, and then the ability to close the loop of the nuclear materials, what we call in France, fermeture de la boucle. It means that we are sure that all the nuclear waste are handled correctly and are not are not re-injected in other parts where we don't control these other parts. So this leads to these two questions, and this is why we wanted to see what was this new model of nuclear, which are the small modular reactors. Perhaps in terms of
may I ask you,
Luca,
Ivan,
vas-y, go ahead.
before entering in the discussion of the report about small modular reactors, may I ask you briefly, just briefly, to explain which are the roles of the energy regulator CRE, the safety regulator
ASMR,
ASMR, and of course the government. Briefly but clearly, because you are so able to be clear. But these three points.
Okay. First of all, the government has two big roles in terms of nuclear. The first role of the government is to determine, or is in charge of the determination of the nuclear mix. So what is the share of nuclear in the coming years? And this is what we call pluriannual energy programmation, which has to state which share of electricity generation are allocated to each technology, and basically nuclear.
Yes.
This is I would say, a very common rule of the government in all countries. And there is another rule of the government, which is not the same in France. The government is also the sole shareholder of EDF, which is in charge of the nuclear fleet. And when it comes to investment, then you have two rules with a sort of the government is in charge of finding the good equilibrium between these two issues. Though there is a regulator for safety, ASMR, which is the classical regulator for the safety instructions, the safety framework, and also allowing nuclear power plants to operate. And every 10 years, the regulator is making a full assessment of each unit, and then allow the unit to operate for the next 10 years. And every 10 years, the safety framework is reassessed in light of what happened in the world. To make it clearer, when there was the Fukushima accident, then the safety regulator strengthened his safety framework just to be sure that such an incident would not happen or is not keen to happen in France. And then going to the role of the French energy regulator, CRE, in fact, we are not in charge of nuclear. We are in charge of market surveillance. So as market surveillance, we are in charge of making sure that the information of availability of the nuclear fleet is correctly given to the market. And so we are assessing what kind of information EDF is giving to the market, first rule. Okay. Second rule is a more indirect role about nuclear. There is a new scheme in France for giving back in terms of over profit a part of this money to the consumer. We are not in charge of this scheme because this is a fiscal scheme, but this fiscal scheme is based on an assessment from CRE of the cost of nuclear power plant, of nuclear historical fleet in France. So we have one finger, I would say, we are totally in charge of market surveillance. We have one finger in the assessment of the cost of nuclear power plant in France.
The baseline cost.
The baseline.
The baseline, okay.
And above this baseline, there will be new investment needs and blah, 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 and everything that is needed for EDF. And the last point is consumer protection. And the consumer protection, this is more a question mark about how the consumer is truthfully informed of where is its electricity come from. But I would say this is the same thing as for renewable or other things.
Full mix. Okay.
The full mix, but this is, I would say, this is a standard rule.
Okay. So let's enter in the true point of this podcast, that is the report about small modular reactors and advanced modular reactors that the CRE published in September. I think this is the first time that an energy regulator enter in such a topic. And this is a first interesting for that. You explained very well the reasons to understand this extremely innovative topic. For instance, to understand also if there is a possibility to have different multiple owners of nuclear in France. That's a very important aspect, but also to understand the viability of this SMR, AMR. So, but I'm interested in a more even. CRE looks at future. This is a very interesting point. CRE looks at future. It is not very common among European regulators. European regulators look at present more than at future, normally, I must say. So if you want to give a context of that, because it's very important, and explain also how did you select, how the CRE selected the person, this rapporteuse, I don't know the French name, because she was a very important, clever person. Thank you.
Okay. So first of all, why is CRE doing some activities for foresighting or for looking at the future? I would say that we are coming from a world of carbonized electricity or carbonized energy, and we are switching to a world which has to be decarbonized. So I would say 6-7 years ago, CRE then realized that we cannot rely on the past or the present to be able to anticipate what will be the hot subject or the hot topics of this decarbonization revolution, I would say. Because there will be a lot of stranded assets, there will be a need for investment, there is a change in the business model, decarbonizing the economy or the energy means to rely on fixed assets or fixed cost rather than a variable cost, and so on. So we decided to have, first of all, a scientific council which is composed by people coming from the academic side, from the industry side, and also the people we are discussing with every day. And with this scientific council, we are determining what are the topics which have to be addressed in the next 10-20 years. Where are the topics that first are not analyzed truthfully, because if somebody else has made the job, okay, it's fine. Who could lead to a major change in the energy system and who could impact our way of working in the next 10 or 20 years. And when this topic is decided, then we have an independent working group, which is chaired by a professor and industry expert. And they meet for 1 year, involving all stakeholders. So people from the academic side, people from the industry, but also people from the union sometimes, and people from environmental association and so on. And we want inside this working group, all the information to be available for everybody so they can react. So this is a little bit the way a regulator is working with the public consultation, but we adapt this way by having regular working session and with thematics on this working session and so on. And then we have a rapporteur because there is somebody who has to write the report at the end of the day. And this is always an independent institution like a court of auditor or state council or somebody coming from the academic side, a professor of the academic side. What is key for us is that even if the report are endorsed by CRE or by the commissioner, the forging and then the choice or the analysis put in the report are made by independent actors, two co-presidents who make the choice of the thematics, the themes which are chosen, and the orientation of the report. But it works. Sometimes, not every time, but sometimes, CRE disagree with what the two co-presidents say.
Yes. There is a sort of independence of this council.
Yeah. And then, so for us, it's really key, even if we are an independent regulator, to have an independence of this working group or in the final orientation of the report.
Thank you. Okay. Let's see at the first let's say messages of this report. One that I skip to some conclusions, and one is about the market perspectives. I don't read in French because my French is very poor, but translating in English, it says market prospects at this stage poorly secured due to outlet issues, economic competitiveness, and regulatory barriers, where many uncertainties still reign. Page 58.
Yeah.
So it seemed rather, I would say, pessimistic, but it seemed pessimistic not only for small modular reactors, but also for large ones.
Okay. Yeah.
Is this so negative in France? That is the most important nuclear nation in the world, I would say, for sure in Europe. So can you give a positive message? Or maybe I extracted the worst line in the report, but
no, but I think it's very
or
important.
is this the message?
The message is balanced. So there is one side of the message which says, okay, be aware that there is a lot of uncertainties and a lot of difficulties when we look at the SMR business model. On the other side, we say, okay, the bet is quite risky, but at the end of the day, we say that the bet can be done in Europe. There is still a pace for Europe to be successful in small and modular reactor, but we have to solve a numerous amount of problems or issue before, because if we want to solve them after the choice of the design of SMR, then it will be harder. The other thing, in terms of market perspective, is the SMR is a smaller reactor as a big reactor. So it's intrinsically, it's less efficient than a big reactor. So to be able to...
But on the other side, it's modular. And modular means that it gains in constructions and maybe also in design for the commissioning. So efficiency must be evaluated on the full life.
Yeah, but this is the point. You have to construct and to operate, or to construct in first glance, you have to construct a big number of reactors, something like 100. If you don't have a market deep enough to be able to have 100, 200 reactors, then the learning curves for construction is not efficient enough to counterbalance the size effect. The size effect is something like 25% less efficiency. And if you look between the first of a kind to the 15, 50, or 100 reactor constructed, then you gain 25%. So we say that, okay, the bet is okay, because what you lose is roughly what you can gain. But the condition is that you have a market which can have 100 reactor of the same design, with exactly the same design.
Same
Because
design, yes. This is another interesting point of the report, because the report analyzes a lot of, I'm not sure all kinds, but a lot of different type of reactors, select 11 teste di serie. I'm not able to translate in English, but however, the top, let's say, the top list of 11 more promising um, design, and consider that only one of these is from Europe. So Europe is lagging behind. This is a strong message from the report, and says that development is in China and in US. So there is a strong message to Europe, saying that Europe must invest more and in a more coordinated manner. Do you want to spend a couple of words on that?
Oh, yes. I think it's also our key message. If we want to be back in the race, if Europe wants to be back in the race for SMR, it has to be faster than today, because we are, as you said, lagging behind China, Russia, but also US. And this leads to another point. The European market is fragmented. European safety regulation is fragmented, and this is a point. See, I'm not. We are not judging.
Many diverse rules for safety.
Yeah, and so this leads to 2 points. If we want to have a domestic market deep enough to be able to develop one competitive design of SMR for competition with USA, China, and Russia, then we have to go further in the harmonization of, first of all, the safety rules. And we have worked with ASNR closely. And at the presentation of the report, the president of ASNR was present to say, yes, we have to work further on harmonization of safety framework. And on the other part, to make a first of a kind, it costs roughly €1 billion. So we will have to choose one winner at the end of the story, because when I say we, the market, the public actors, everybody won't be able to have all the resources for having 10 champions in Europe. And somehow, if we are not able to get back in the race with the same advantages as other markets and other parts of the world, then if small modular reactor is an economic reality, then the risk for Europe is to import these small modular reactors.
That discussion is so interesting, but we have time limited, and I want to make a couple of questions before completing. One is about industrial sites. There is a narrative that small modular reaction can help energy intensive users, industrial sites. But there is an example in the report about Fos-sur-Mer, that is a very energy intensive industry site, where it seems, I read, they do not consider using SMR whose size does not seem proportionate to the level of its needs. Page 44. It's incredible, because it's paradoxical, because if this kind of new nuclear supply is not well fitting with this kind of need, what is for utility scale? It's clear that large nuclear is better, probably. So I find this very, very
striking.
depressive.
Depressive. Okay.
Yes.
In fact, I will have to explain one thing about the technical side of the SMR.
Yes.
What we found out from the report is that the first SMR, first modular reactor, which will be able to be to operate, I would say, not in 2080s or too far away, are the small modular reactor based on existing design of a nuclear reactor, and basically from generally speaking research reactor. And this design is limited in terms of heat to 300 degrees. So when it comes to the market, the first market is heating district or is industrial heating, but for low temperature.
Yeah.
So
that's important, yes.
And that's very important because our analysis is that the first SMR, which will be able to address the market, is on a certain range of temperature and a lot of constraint in terms of scientific or technological development. The less technological development and low temperature. And this leads for us to a point where the most promising market in the first step is the heating or the heating district or the heating for industrial process. So
and so they need advanced, advanced modular reactor instead of small modular.
And they did advanced modular reactors. They have 2 points. First of all, there is a lot of technological development still ongoing. So okay, but there is also a fuel issue, because all these advanced, or majority of these advanced modular reactors are based on nuclear fuel, which does not exist today. And to construct a whole cycle for fuel, so fuel manufacturing and then fuel recycling, it's an investment on about 10 to 20 to 30 billions of euro. So there will be one, when we say, okay, it could be 1, 2, or 3 design of small modular reactor, be aware in terms of fuel, the constraint of harmonization and the constraint of investment is even stronger.
I conclude, this is the last question. We are close to half an hour. That is our maximum time. Again, about optimism. Page 36, I read, again in English, sorry. The working group has not collected any element allowing to pronounce on the realism of the schedules displayed by project carriers, porteurs de projet, who seem relatively optimistic. It sounds like a French euphemism. it sounds. Les porteurs de projet qui semblent relativement optimistes. Ooh la la.
Okay.
Can you translate in ordinary language?
Alors, in ordinary language, we faced a development of SMR on a startup model. So it has some very good aspects. Two good aspects of the startup model. It allowed a lot of imagination in terms of design. So instead of having
you mean too much.
Alors, too much, but in the startup model, this is clearly the case. You have 10 projects, only one project winning at the end. So there is 9 projects which will be abandoned or which has to be frozen or delayed or whatsoever. So, but there is another side of the startup model, is that the startups have to convince their founders or investors that there will be the winner. So it leads to very optimistical schedules because they have to say, okay, I will be the first on the market, because there is an effect. First, it's not the best design does not take all. The first design take all. We are in a scheme where the first actor able to be on the market with a competitive asset will gain the market, because as we said, there won't be room enough for 5, 6, 7 actors. So there will be a freeze of the technology with the first actor in the market. And moreover, as Europe is lagging behind United States, but as we say, we can be back in the race. So there is a big pressure for the project to have a competitive edge in terms of schedule. And what we say is that, okay, but be aware of this bias in terms of project analysis. Be aware that the startup model leads naturally to this point. If you want to anticipate other investment, other development, and so on, the schedule which are given by the project leaders are optimistic, but because we ask them to be optimistic. But now take a little bit of, take a step back and look at all the difficulties
in the future.
in the future.
Thank you, Ivan. Thank you very much. From my side, I come from in Italy from a country, Italy, without nuclear, so everything is so interesting. I understand that for France, nuclear is vital. Also because I see that when an SMR stops some units, the price is subject to big tensions, and not only the French price, but I say the European price, because network, I say, is like marriage. We are married. We are married
for the best and for the war
and the bad
for the
destiny.
worst.
Exactly, exactly. So your nuclear destiny is our destiny. This is why we are very interested in your nuclear destiny. So kudos for your work, for your forward-looking, future-looking work, extremely interesting, and I think unique in European panorama landscape, and very, very appreciated. Really, very, very appreciated. I don't know if you want to say a few words in final.
Oh, just a last word.
Yes.
CRE is not in charge of nuclear.
Yeah, but you are very involved.
But intellectually speaking, and in terms of human relationship, working on the future and working on new development is very interesting. And my final word is SMR in France has launched a big hope in restoring nuclear as a key point of the decarbonization, not only because of big nuclear power plant, but also on the capability to foster for the young generation a new future, which is not only a future of big power plants.
Decentralization.
The centralization. And we are very happy to see that all this young generation engaged in decarbonization, either renewable, but also SMR, they share the same hope that several technology will be able to serve the same big goals of going to a net zero economy at the end of the day.
Thank you. Thank you, Ivan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Goodbye, Luca.